I would like to begin our Lenten journey through the book of Revelation with just a few notes of introduction, and then to talk very briefly about how we are going to proceed together through the book. The first thing we note is the title, The Revelation to John, subtitled Apocalypse. It is a revelation, a vision, sent by God to a particular person, to John. It's alluded in the opening lines that this John may indeed be the author of the Gospel of John. Scholarship has not been able to clear that one up for centuries. It really doesn't matter in the end. It is a revelation sent to John about the last days, the apocalypse, the end of time. It is set in the time about 95 in the Christian era, a time when Domitian is emperor of Rome. It is a time when there is some sporadic persecution. Most of the persecutions at this point are not empire-wide pogroms. These will come later. But right now, they are sporadic, usually prompted by some calamity within a community, and the Christians get scapegoated. In centuries to come, it will be a similar fate for the Jews and other races and ethnic groups. They are basically localized. They spring up. They die off. But if you're going through a persecution, it's not fun. So that we have to take them seriously, even though they are not widespread. We note that this revelation to John is for the purpose to send it to the 7 churches of Asia. Note the specificity of this. It's not a universal document. It's a document sent to 7 particular congregations. Think for a minute of sending letters to 7 local churches and see how different that would be than sending it to the entirety of Christendom. It's a specific word. It is a word that is expected to be read to them. Most scholars believe that the book of Revelation was used in the context of worship, that it was not so much read as recited by memory in one setting from start to finish. If you have the fortitude to get through the entire book of Revelation in one sitting, it's a powerful read, but even more so, to listen to it out loud. I believe in many ways that to be faithful to the book is not to so much examine it as it is to listen to it. And the best context to listen to it would be in the midst of a church service, because it plays heavily on the emotions, the reactions, the rites, the rituals that we go through in the course of the Holy Liturgy. Another thing that may be helpful to you is to look at reading this book with a copy of Genesis open in those early chapters. There will be many opportunities to go back and forth, particularly in those opening chapters. That's enough right now for an introduction. What I'd like to suggest as we move forward is that we approach each of the readings in this way. I encourage you to read them out loud if possible. read them out loud a couple of times. If you're doing this as a family devotion or with a group of friends, share the reading so that you hear different voices, different inflections. You may even want to get a different version of the New Testament, a different translation. Compare, listen to how it sounds, for the differences. As you read that, I'd like you to pay attention to the words and the phrases that jump out at you. You may want to keep a pad of paper next to you and begin to jot those down. Those are important. These are the things that the Word is stirring up in us. And it will come in handy as we move through the questions. The second question I'd like you to ask is, what questions get raised? What are the things I don't understand? What are the things I've never noticed before? What are the things I need to ponder? And then the third question we'll deal with is, so what? What does this mean in my daily life today? That's where that opening question comes into play. Go back and read what caught your attention. Is there any correlation between those words and what's going on in your life? And sit with that. Pray with that. If you're doing this alone, I encourage you to journal your thoughts. If you're doing it together, share the questions. Compare what you hear and how different that can be. One of the things that is inevitable reading this at this particular time in history is that this is a scary book, in that it speaks of the cataclysmic events of an end time. I think it's also a book of great hope, because I think it throws it back at us to ponder how these things have happened in other times in history and continue to happen, not only on the international or national stage, but also within our own lives. It is that constant struggle in our living and our dying that happens daily as a result of living into our baptisms. And so I invite you to engage in our time together, to explore what this book says to you and how you react.